Welcome back to Closing Arguments. I'm Nancy Grace, and I want to thank you for being with us. Another case of sleeping justice. 2 decades after the murder of Sharon Randolph, the crime is being, quote, dealt with in a court of law. And prosecutors say her husband is the one to blame, who, by the way, is an officer of the court. That's right, a lawyer. Good afternoon and welcome to Closing Arguments. I'm Nancy Grace. Back in January '82, Miss Randolph was gunned down in a dark restaurant parking lot. The crime went unsolved for nearly 20 years, but then one phone call changed it all.
The year was 1982, and Thomas and Sharon Randolph had just had dinner at this Michigan restaurant. After dinner, the couple headed out to their car, but within minutes, 26-year-old Sharon lay bleeding to death in the back seat, shot twice in the face. Randolph told police that the armed attacker demanded money and knocked him unconscious. To police, the story didn't ring true.
The police thought at that time, with good instincts, that it was very odd that in a claimed robbery gone bad, nothing was actually taken, that there were many valuables that were still in the car or on the ground outside of the car, that if this were really a robbery would have certainly been taken.
Investigators began looking into the Randolph marriage and found reports of domestic violence and recent insurance policies on Sharon's life that didn't require her signature.
When you add up all of the figures, there was a great deal of money to be gained by the defendant Randolph by having his wife killed.
In spite of the suspicions, the investigation turned up nothing to directly link Randolph to his wife's killing. For nearly 2 decades, the murder remained a cold case. Thomas Randolph Jr. quickly remarried. He earned a law degree and a doctorate, ran a string of successful businesses with his wife, and shared a law practice with his son. But the good life ended when Randolph was arrested for murder. 17.5 years after his wife was shot, the police had new witnesses. A Detroit sister and brother said their uncle, Santarell Shannon, was the triggerman, paid by Thomas Randolph.
I wanted justice to be served. 20 years of freedom, and they destroy other people's lives, you know, all for greed of money.
My uncle ran over to the lady and put the gun to her face and said, "Die, B, die." And she said, "Please don't kill me, please don't kill me, I'll give you anything." And she got on her knees, and he snatched her back up and shot her in the face.
David Bythewood, as a defense attorney, how do you think he's doing on the stand, and how difficult is it to put a case together this many years later?
Well, the first part, putting a case together, it's 20 years old, is very difficult because there's so much cold evidence. There's no evidence out there that's hot, and you've got to create these paths or find these paths to get you to the heart of the case. And if you don't understand the case, and you don't understand the facts and what supposedly happened or what your defense is, you've got no case. You can't develop it. So you've got to go out there, you've got to use private investigators and use all the resources you have to find out what's going on. Now, eyewitness testimony is known to be unreliable. You have to look for motive for people
Says you.
Well, it is. It is. There are many books that are published about it. And I'll send you one, as a matter of fact.
I've read it all. But in this case, do you think the defense is doing a good job?
The defense is just really getting into it, and the fact that they're bringing out that 2 weeks before he said something to the police, there was a fight about the estate.
Good point. Good point. Very quick.
Police thought at that time, with good instincts, that it was very odd that in a claimed robbery gone bad, nothing was actually taken, that there were many valuables that were still in the car or on the ground outside of the car, that if this were really a robbery would have certainly been taken.
You know, David
I'm ready
Bythewood.
for you, Nancy. I'm sitting here. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out what it sounds like to be honest. I mean, he sounds like he's honest. My goodness.
Hold on. Let's get back to
$1 million
motive.
question.
So here you've got an armed robbery going down. We know it's not a sex attack. We know that it's not some ransom payoff or a blackmail scheme. All right. So the motive, according to the defendant, a fellow lawyer, is robbery. So what's the thinking of a robber who comes up with a gun, blasts a woman in the head twice, and then says, you know what, To heck with the robbery. I'm just going to hot-foot it out of here. Does that make sense to you?
Well, you know, now we have to look at the whole situation and figure out what you're talking about here. What's on the robber's mind when he comes in? He thinks it's going to be an easy hit. He goes and he's going to steal all of this stuff from this woman. I guess he thinks she has a lot of money. He shoots her. The husband puts up resistance or runs off into the distance, and perhaps the husband has the cops that he's going to call. Again, he's going to get help, and he doesn't have time to shoot the husband, I guess, because I don't have a crystal ball yet to tell me what's going on.
That crystal ball.
But you've got one. And what happens is perhaps he just ran away and said, well, it didn't go the way I wanted, so I better get out of here before I get caught. So maybe self-preservation is the issue.
You got two victims in the car. You're a sneaky armed robber. You wait until people come up behind this restaurant in a darkened parking lot. You want money. You want jewelry. You want credit cards so badly. You're willing to kill to get it. You kill a defenseless woman. You gun her down. The husband takes off running, and there's her pocketbook. There's all her money, all her credit card. There's her diamond ring on her finger. And you don't take it?
I don't know what you do. I mean, I don't do that kind of thing. That's not my deal here. And when you're talking about what is motivating this guy to do things, who knows? I don't know that there was a diamond ring on her finger. I don't know that the pocketbook wasn't there. I don't know that somebody didn't come by and see what was going on and panic this guy and get him to run. And somebody, of course, who might have said, well, I don't want to get involved, which so many people do. And then after the guy runs off,
boys,
we don't know.
You're now off on alleged bystanders who didn't call out. Hold on.
Well, you weren't there, and neither was I, so we don't know who was there and who wasn't.
I know nothing was taken. Welcome back to Closing Arguments. I'm Nancy Grace. Thank you for being with us. We are bringing you a trial that invokes the adage made famous by Johnny Cochran, justice delayed, justice denied. We'll find out in this Michigan case nearly 20 years after the fact. A lawyer is on trial for the shooting death of none other than his wife. So this guy, Thomas Randolph, has gone from advocating for others in court, representing others, to being represented himself in a criminal court of law. It is a real reversal of fortune. Let's go straight off the top with our experts. Here in the studio with me, criminal defense attorney David Bythewood, weighing in for Thomas Randolph's defense. Take a listen to this, David.
Your wife gets shot in the face, and she's laying in the back seat, bleeding all over the place, and he doesn't have a drop of blood on him. He comes to, and his first thought is to go and holler for help, rather than to go and see what condition his wife is in. I don't understand that, and I never will. If the jury or other people can understand it, I can live with it, but I don't understand that.
I'm with him. That's Leonard Beatty, the brother of the victim in this case. I don't understand it. David Bythewood, if I were to see you gunned down, and we're not married, let's just make that clear, I'd run over to you and try to help you. All right? You wouldn't find my clothes tied, detergent clean. Oh, no, you would not. So I think he's got a lot of explaining to do, buddy.
Well, Nancy, there are a lot of factors you have to look at here.
He's tuning up, everybody.
Say you would just do nothing but run over because if the person shot and you don't know the condition of the person, then the best thing is to get that person medical care as soon as possible. If you waste time coming over to say how you doing, how bad is the bullet in your head, those precious minutes could mean the difference between my life or death. I would prefer you get 911 on the phone, or if there's a cop or someone over there, someone who knows how to handle the situation, and not come over and look because you're not capable or qualified to render any assistance to me. That'll help.
Okay, do you agree with me just this once that the BSO meter is way off the chart today? Okay, we've heard from defense attorney David Bythewood, who's making a very serious argument that this woman's husband shouldn't have gone over to see about his wife, to try to revive her or touch her, or even find out what's happened to her, that he very wisely called police or someone that could help.
And around judicial circles and legal circles, they called him Pro Boni Tony, because he couldn't find it within himself to charge people. That kind of carried over to me. And you know, well, I have found the strength to charge people. I'm not as generous as he is. I use the system in the same way to help people. And you know, I'm proud of that.
To help people. But the night his wife was gunned down, he didn't rush over to help her, David Bythewood.
Well, first of all, Nancy, he's innocent until proven guilty. And second of all, you know,
what does that have to do with anything? Why do you always throw that out when you don't know what to say?
The conclusion that somebody is guilty, the prosecutor in you just spills out and is bleeding out of the top of your head like crazy.
That's a good way to put it, just like this woman was doing. Listen.
Yeah, I try to save your life first,
When your wife gets shot in the car, your car,
save her life
you
first.
Try to help her instead of calmly walking away and calling for help.
That's your characterization.
And all this business about he doesn't want to charge his clients. Well,
that has nothing to do with
according to prosecutors, he sure dug up the money to hire a hitman.
Oh,
he ain't afraid of spending a dollar.
Now all of a sudden you have a crystal ball and you know about digging up money and everything. Where'd you get that information? What crystal ball have you been looking into?
Opening
Boy,
statements.
I'd like to see that one.
And here's the question. Does being a lawyer help the defendant? I've got to agree with 58% who say no. I think it makes the jury suspicious of him. Log on to courttv.com and vote. Stay with us.
They come from out the double doors of the plaza.
Can you tell us, were you able to watch the defendant Randolph and the woman he was with, Mr. Hutzel?
Yes.
Can you tell us what were they doing when you were watching?
She was opening her car door.
Where was your uncle at this time, the defendant?
He was getting out of the car.
Out of the car you were in?
Yes.
What door did he get out of the car you were in, Mr. Hutzel?
The passenger side.
Can you tell us, after your uncle, the defendant, got out of the car, what happened next, if you could tell us?
He ran over.
Who ran over when you say
My
he?
uncle ran over to the lady and put the gun to her face and said, "Die, B, die." And she said, "Please don't kill me, please don't kill me, I'll give you anything." And she got on her knees and he snatched her back up and shot her in the face.
When you say your uncle shot the woman in the face, Mr. Hutzel, do you remember how many times your uncle shot the woman in the face?
Twice.
Can you tell us, Mr. Hutzel, were you able to see the woman, Miss Randolph, when your uncle was firing the shots?
Yes.
Can you tell us what happened after the first shot?
I didn't see her anymore.
And then what did you see next?
I saw him run around the car and talk to Tony.
And again, when you say Tony, you're referring to the defendant Randolph here, correct?
Yes, sir.
Could you tell us, while your uncle was running up to that woman and shooting her, where was the defendant Randolph?
Standing on the other side of the car.
What was he doing, if you could tell us?
Just standing there.
Do you remember at the time the defendant Randolph's demeanor? Was he doing anything there?
No.
Can you tell us what happened after your uncle then ran around the car to where the defendant Randolph was?
Dr. Randolph said, "How you want to do this? Let's make it look real good."
And after the defendant Randolph said, "How do you want to do this? Let's make it look real good," do you remember what happened next?
After that, my uncle hit him with the butt of the gun a couple times on his head.